There are a lot of UX research methods. In this video, we'll look into the categories UX researchers bucket these methods in so they can easily select the right one based on the task at hand. In general, these methods fall into 4 quadrants. We'll talk about what those are. The research method you choose also depends on the stage of product development that you're in. We'll touch on this as well. Finally, adding the entire list of research methods would make this video way too long, so we've written an article with the key methods you need to be aware of, and that's linked in the description below. Part 1. Vibes versus numbers. We can divide UX research methods into 2 broad categories: qualitative methods and quantitative methods. They are exactly what they sound like. A qualitative method involves directly observing your users and gathering data on their behavior and their preferences. Typically, that's non-numerical data that you're gathering. For quantitative research methods, you're capturing numerical data and typically on a much larger scale. Let's look at some examples. So, user interviews, for example, are a very common type of qualitative research method. It involves directly talking to your users or potential users, asking them questions, observing them, and gathering data on their preferences and needs. An example of a quantitative research method is surveys. You aren't in direct contact with your users here. A bunch of them are probably signing up and filling out forms that may pop up on your website, or you've sent through an emailer. If the questions you're asking sound like, what do my users care about? Why are they doing a certain action? You will probably need deeper, in-depth qualitative insights and lean towards qualitative research methods. If instead your question sounds like, how many users use this feature? You may need hard statistics and lean towards quantitative research methods instead. Part 2. Words versus actions. Users. They say one thing and they do something completely different. It is the task of the researcher to identify both of these, however. Those quadrants we talked about before, they finally show up when we make a distinction between attitudinal and behavioral research methods. Attitudinal methods are used to understand the stated beliefs of users. What do they think they want? Behavioral methods are used to understand how users actually interact with your product. What did they do? An example of an attitudinal method is card sorting. In a card sorting test, you ask users to categorize information that would be typically available on your website or app. This helps you uncover how they think about what is on your product and helps you organize that information in a way that's easier for them to discover. Similarly, behavioral methods include A/B testing. To test, for example, if users prefer a red button or a blue one, you may show half your users a red button and half a blue one. Pretty soon, you'll be able to see which button is being clicked more often. YouTube, for example, must have tested the subscribe button a ton. They may be testing it right now. Maybe you should click on it to help them out. Part 3. What user research method should I use? Do we have a problem, pal? Literally, do we have a problem yet? By which I mean, do you know what problem you're solving for users? Which are the needs you're trying to meet? What are you trying to fix? If you haven't established that, you might benefit from something called foundational research or generative research, also called discovery research. It has a lot of names. Researchers are nerds. What is foundational research? This kind of research is like heading into uncharted territory in the dark, feeling your way until you can really make sense of the terrain. Common methods here include user interviews, diary studies, and surveys. If you already know what you're solving for, you probably want to make that solution efficient for your users, or at least make sure they know how to use it. This form of research happens in broad daylight. There is no mystery about it. You basically want to see exactly what your users do in response to a prototype, a concept, or even a live website or app. Common methods for evaluative research include moderated and unmoderated usability tests, and you can also lean on quantitative methods like A/B testing. If it helps, the 3 most common methods of user research are user interviews, usability tests, and surveys. So if you're just starting out, you can probably find the answers you need from one of those methods. Click the link in the description below to read our exhaustive list of research methods and keep this framework in mind as you review them. Oh, and here's another great video on UX research. Check it out and subscribe to our channel for more on the art and science of UX research. I'll see you next week. With love, Team Loop Panel.